Well, it's been a while since I've done this. I've been messing around with Midjourney, AI art. I did Wombo before. Midjourney's so much better. But the other day I was talking to some guys in Midjourney about my porn problem, and then I started talking about. Um, I mentioned while we were getting a heated discussion about Mr. Deepfix, and then all the women just cried, "Oh, well, this is like no different than rape," and this is awful and stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, you're dealing with an application that clones human neurons, and you're worried um, about porn of made from celebrities' faces, and you're working with a program that permits you to do this stuff, and you're trying to control the ethical situation of whether or not people should be able to do this sort of thing. And the thing is when it really comes down to it, um, you're already playing with fire. The minute you get neurons into a computer and you start making stuff with it, you're already playing with fire. So to point at somebody else and say, well, they're doing something wrong, is you have to look at it from their perspective that anybody that's dealing with the neurons is all in the same boat. And it's all wrong. Okay. Um, we're playing with fire. And that's what technology is. It started out as fire. That was like the first technology was having access to fire and being able to make it. And you risk being burned by the fire all the time. And there are other things that they don't even think about. They just jump to the conclusion that that this is worse than anything in the world, and they don't think about all of the other things. That they don't think about the good things or the bad things. They think about the extreme worst things. Okay, and I can give an example. If you're a celebrity and a sex tape of yours gets leaked, it's going to be hugely famous. But after deepfakes, less people are going to believe that it's real, and so it has completely diffused. And still, people are going to be able to see sex tapes of you and stuff like that, but it's not going to really affect your career, you think. It's only going to affect that audience, which is perverts, people that want to see your stuff, want to see you naked. The other people are not going to want to look at that stuff, okay? So it only affects that group. And is it just the thought that they have access to it that bugs you? Is it the thought of, have you looked at the content and you're disgusted to see yourself in the content, or is it? I mean, just don't jump to the conclusion that it's going to ruin you, okay? Because the paparazzi are already ruining you, and just imagine what deepfake is going to do to paparazzi photos. It's going to make them less valuable because there's going to be such an abundance of deepfakes that look fairly realistic to what the paparazzis are producing, and their art of going out and chasing you, it's going to be less attractive to chase you for photos because somebody can defake you now, and somebody can use Midjourney to produce photos of you doing stuff, and so it will be less believable. All these photos they're able to drum up on you, um, and it won't make the news as much. The news will have less things to talk about gossip wise, because there's all these apps out there that let mere mortals create fakes. Um, there's also a great potential in using this deepfake technology, to permit out of work actors, ones who don't look anything like popular actors, to become the popular actors, and then for the popular actors um, to license their likeness. And if you're selling something and it's using their likeness, it's their business to that you need to be paying them for something, and that would be enforceable, because you're selling it. You're selling it commercially, and so they could get you to pay a fee, and that there are people that wouldn't have a problem with that. Um, I don't think it would, it would really matter to them what it was that you were going to do with it, as long as it's not defamation. But if the thing that's kind of sad is that Mr. Deepfakes on his site, some of those videos are being sold. But I'll just let you know, because I've used it before, and I use it from time to time. You can download the videos, even the stuff that's held as being private and commercial and all that. You can download the stuff, and so it's just that they're trying to get some sort of payback for spending all the time doing the computations to make that stuff work. Um, because it takes a long time. Takes a long time to get it to recognize the face. Then there's all sorts of things like, if you can imagine a blowjob, and something's coming in front of the face, uh, the AI has to distinguish that thing that's coming in front of the face from the face. And so one of the effects is that if this happens, then you'll see a little bit of the lip run over the hand or the cock or whatever, and it'll become instantly obvious that it's a deep fake. And so they spend a whole lot of time trying to make it less obvious. Okay, and some don't even bother, because for them it's just, you know, it's when there's a blowjob that it's less believable. When there's not, it's perfectly, you know, it's attractive to. And you could say I was a pervert, but I'd say you know, everybody has had dreams about celebrities and dreams about having sex with celebrities, and you know you have your Britney Spears and you go to bed at night and you have this great dream of having sex with Britney Spears. How many people haven't had that? Now, wouldn't you rather see it and have it somewhere where you could see it? And it does exist now. um, but the reason why this stuff exists at all is because they've cloned human neurons and put them in the computer. They've figured out how a human neuron works, and they put it in the computer. It's not anything different from cloning sheep. It's just they're learning more about human anatomy and on the micro scale, and they're taking what they know about what they've been able to test with, and they're putting it into a machine that can simulate it. And this will lead to other things that will be more positive, like being able to simulate hearts and other kinds of organisms inside of the body. And they've done simulations of things we can't even see, like microtubules, and how cell division occurs and what it looks like on the very minute scale, which is just amazing to watch. Um, some people need to know about sperm is sperm doesn't have a wagging tail. What it has is it has a helix-like tail, and it's got a little motor on the end, and it just spins that thing, and that's what propels it. So it doesn't look like a tadpole at all. It looks like a big old. It's like a globe on one end, an engine, and this tail that goes out like that and then comes in. So it's closer to an outboard motor than it is to tadpole. It's just that under the microscope, it looks like it's doing this. It looks like a tadpole. But if you look at it closely, it's doing it no matter where it goes. It's still doing it like this. It's it's like looking at a toy, a wind-up toy. But that was the thing that just really, and after having that discussion with them, and anytime I open up to somebody about something that even sounds remotely like it's demeaning to women or something like that, they instantly think that it's equivalent to rape. And keep in mind that what rape is non-consensual sex, and the people who will rape women um, most often are like people that are slutty, that have sex. And in my court, where it's an addiction to porn, um, at least from in my sake, I don't go out and look for women to have sex with. That's another group. That's the slutty type people. They're the ones that put their dicks out on um, sites for people to see and send pictures of their dicks to people. Um, the guys who look at porn, um, at least in my case, I can't imagine having um, of exposing myself to the world like that. Um, if somebody created some videos of me doing it, then I might have a problem with it. I might not have a problem with it. I'll probably just shrug it off because the thing is that for me to do it is kind of hard for me to imagine doing it and why I would do it at all. But if people were doing it because they were attracted to me or for whatever reason, I would. If it was a bad reason, I would just shrug it off. And if it was somebody that was attracted, I go, "Oh wow, people were attracted to me, and they really want to." I'd say there's hope. After all, there might be women out there that might be attracted. So, but some ways who's super attracted, and their whole career depends on their being attractive and stuff. They could ponder this other thing is that plastic surgeries is any kind of surgery is potentially destructive to your body, even plastic surgery. And down the road, that stuff that was making you look good is going to make you look ugly, and it will be in your best interest to have deep fakes out there and the capacity to deep fake and to do things like that to avoid plastic surgery if your your likeness is a big part of your survival. Um, I mean, if you think that that's a big part, and your acting ability has nothing to do with. I mean, your acting ability is nobody's picking you for movies or something like that. If your picture is more important, I can see how that would affect your capacity to make money. But ponder what could be done for yourself when you make a movie. That as you get older, your face not necessarily have to be um, have to suffer for that when you make a movie. You'll just become a little bit more lethargic, but your face will remain just as beautiful as it was whenever you were 20 or 30 or 40. And you can either choose to do the role or have somebody else do the role. You can pick the role and you can adjust the script and everything and have some other actor do it and collect money on it. I mean, there's a whole slew of flexible ways of dealing with this that are more positive than trying to chase after all of the people that are going to abuse it, which is going to be practically impossible. Um, it'll be just like all these people that are trying to keep people from copying their music. And it's going to be practically impossible. You just let it happen and think about the other potential ways of making it work for you. And you know, the government is not going to be able to enforce everything under the sun that could possibly happen. They just don't have the expertise for that, and Nobody's going to cough up the tax money to support it. I mean, they have a hard enough time. They can't chase after, for instance, credit card theft or ID theft. They can't do that stuff anymore because they just don't have the people to do the the to do the investigation and everything. So they tend to focus on um, the things that are more important, things that are more rare. Okay, they focus on those things um, because the other things happen so often. It's um, it's it says that there's more of a problem with credit cards than it is with them. Okay, and they deal with domestic abuse. That's their big deal, because people who get married and end up having problems with each other and end up being stuck with each other and wanting to kill each other, or people that have alcohol abuse. And those are the guys that are more important to them. They don't give a shit about all this other stuff that's happening on the internet and all that. That's more kind of a global thing, and no matter what you feel about that, it is not going to keep the tide of stuff of crap from coming in. The shit's going to come in, and it's going to be visible, and you're not going to be able to control it. And I've said before that to control the world is the pathway to evil. Just let the shit happen and see and look on the bright side of it, and also ponder how much is it really affecting you. How much is it going to give people jobs? What kind of people is it going to give jobs? You know, you, you can't point a finger at somebody and say you're doing evil, and I want to stop what you're doing. If they're doing it for survival, you know, that's a good thing. They're doing it for survival. At least they're not stealing from you. They're just stealing your face. Your celebrity or whatever. So maybe there's a solution to that. Maybe there's some sort of negotiation. But you're not going to be able to get the government to chase after every single person that offends you, unless you've got lawyers, and those lawyers are going to suck you for money. So your best bet is just to let it go and weigh in at what amount of just figure out how much it affects you, how much it really affects you, and you may come to the realization that a lot of it is ignorable. There was a This American Life episode where there was this guy who was married to this beautiful younger Asian girl, and it was the dream of his life. Then all of a sudden, somebody wanted to take some land from him, and he got into the legal battle of that, and being able to get that land back trumped um, his. He was more concerned about that than his relationship with his wife, and his wife eventually left him, and he was still dealing with this land battle. And I mean, the guy lost a relationship, and he's concerned about a piece of land. There is stupidity of stuff like that exists in the world, and you watch that video, and it makes you feel sad because there are people out there in the world that will get um, so attached to wanting to be right, to wanting to have justice and everything, that they're willing to give up all they have to chase that. It's like for the want of a nail, the battle was lost. So you just have to think a little deeper about those things and see if it really does affect you. Also, when those guys jumped to the idea that it was rape, what I was talking about, um, the feeling I got from that was that they really weren't. There were two things that were going on. They really weren't concerned about rape. They just hated me and they wanted me not to be around. So they were just jumping. They were making a big deal out of it so that they could get me upset or piss me off and get me out of the room. If it really was a serious offense to them, if they were not just looking for something to pin on me, because one of the ladies said, "Oh, I was going to report you," and then I would say they're jumping, they're they're overreacting, and they're not thinking deep enough about what it is, and they're not thinking about, they're jumping to the conclusion that the government's going to fix all their problems for them, and people just don't pay the taxes for the governments to really give a shit about them. The taxes that do get collected are for things that have nothing to do with law enforcement. Okay, and the law enforcement are just going to go after, if it's for political reasons, they're going to go after the things that people are really concerned about, and it's usually local things like some mall going up or something like that. It's not going to have anything to do with, and on the federal level, they're not going to give a shit about what happens to celebrity faces. Such a small portion of the population, celebrities and you know, deep faking and all that stuff. They're more concerned about what China's doing with AI and neural nets, you know, and they can't control what China's doing. And why should they even be concerned about what's happening in their own country that people are doing with it whenever China is already doing it? You know, and so I just fail to see, and when people talk about anything having to do with sex and they compare something to rape, and then they just clump everybody together and they say these guys are like those guys. All these pervs are the same, Um, the the they don't consider what those pervs are. They don't even want to know what those pervs are. Maybe some of those guys that are in wheelchairs that will never be able to have the relationships that that they would like, or to do the things that they'd like to do. Um, Maybe they're an invalid, or they're on a table and they can't even use uh, parts of their anatomy to have a normal sexual relationship. But VR porn is going to give them a perspective on sex that they just will not have. And deep faking for some people is might give closure to their desire to see a celebrity that they're attracted to having sex. They may eventually get bored of it, and and they're not obsessing over that celebrity anymore. They're not buying the memorabilia and all that, the posters, and wanting to have wet dreams at night. That it's all been solved for them, and they're able to move on and go to something else. They don't think of the positive things; they think of the negative things, and they jump to the negative things, and they 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 get crazy about it. I'm not going to do any more singing. I've lost interest in memorizing lyrics and singing stuff. And somebody pointed out to me that even though you might have like 8,000 subscribers, um, if you there's a idea called retention, and that is retaining a number of those subscribers to actually watching the videos, and it's usually going to diminish. It isn't like you're going to lose subscribers. It's just that the subscribers are not going to be that interested, and it may be the case that YouTube will not send videos to them if they're not watching them. Um, so they could be subscribed to it, but they won't be watching the videos when they come out. So um, I'm less concerned about whether or not I get 100,000 subscribers or a million or something like that. Um, and because the number of views per video is, as I've found out, is usually 200, 300, and it may be different now. I haven't looked at it in a while. But I'm sorry to the people that I'm not one of those guys that just produces content, all the time. Uh, I'll touch base every now and then, but now that I'm messing with Midjourney, it's taking up more of my interest, and it's what I'm having fun with. And I just don't have that much fun in sitting around and singing songs. But you never know. I might one day just decide I want to sing something. Um, it just it's it until they come up with a way of creating music with AI that is more compelling to me, I will be doing any kind of singing, and that's just the way I am. If something is boring to me, I don't see much reason in pushing it. And I guess if my life depended on it, I probably would be doing on it. But um, I don't see YouTube as a big money maker, and I don't. And money doesn't rule my world, so it doesn't rock my world. So I'm not going to be that kind of guy. I fucking hate advertisements in YouTube. Um, and my site Rock Me Amadeus, which is this, will give you a link to it. It's not hard to find, and that's the only advertising I would do is for this site that I throw $300 at a year, um, and not expect to get any money back from it. All I want is for people to enjoy what's there, and then maybe to take the source code and make their own sites from it. And for me, that's just my ideas in my head, making it out into the world, and people making use of what I thought was a good idea. I might, if people did that, then I might go, oh wow, look at what I did. But um, but that's not really what drives why I want people to go there. Why I want people to go there is so people have a different perspective on how to listen to music videos or listen to music, and because I use a simple method of creating a time-oriented, shareable experience of watching music videos and making it look like um, a streamed session, a streamed, you know, content, and whenever it's really not, it's just um, manipulating a player into making kind of a stream experience. It's not perfect, but it could be made much better. But I don't see much reason in pushing it. All I want is to point out that it's possible, and there's ways of, and that's an example of taking an existing technology, making it better without manipulating without getting into the nuts and bolts of the player and fixing it. You can solve the problem from the outside by just thinking of what you can do with it, and um, and exploit the things that you want to do that you wouldn't normally be that you can't do with the player, but do it from the outside. So in my case was is to raise the volume on certain videos by adjusting the volume control. So for most of the video, for all videos that have normal volume levels, I set them to 25 out of 100. So they're at quarter volume. And when a video comes along that is got a lower volume level, I raise it um, to a multiple that permits it to have it at the same volume level as all the other videos. So you're not constantly having to adjust your volume. And I'm one of those pervs that watches, deep fake porn. So you see, you marginalize me. You said you're a perv, but yeah, I'm a perv that thinks. And you know, But what's so perverted about me? How am I different from the pervs that go out on the battlefield with their guns, their M16s, or those guys that have AR-15s in their closet that shoot bullets that go 3 times the speed of sound and can completely obliterate organs and bones in people's bodies. And why do we have 11 million of them in America? And those guys you can go and drink beer with, but guys like me, you're not going to drink beer with just because I do something that offends you, and that doesn't offend you. You know, we're all pervs if you think about it.